So I hope everyone is here. So thanks again to the amazing stories shared by Aaron, Amy, and Indoni in the first half of these sections. Now we are going to begin the second half of these sections. So actually, it starts by a big headache. Why I say so? Because Spartina, whenever we mention about this species, people will shake their head. Why? Because it's bring us a lot of troubles in terms of wetland management. Now we have a hope because our friend Xiaojin Gen is going to share the stories in China's on how to use of a herbicide called imidacloprid herbicide to control the spread of invasive Spartina alterniflora in the migratory centuries along the coast of China. Hope this is a good news to everyone if we have this kind of solutions, and then we can remove this kind of headache to us. So the floor is yours, Xiaojin.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Everyone who attended these sessions, and thanks to the secretary. I'm Xiaojin Gan from Policy Institute, and Dr. Shi Jianbing had a surgery recently, so he cannot come, so I will give this presentation on behalf of the Policy Institute. It's grateful to have this opportunity to share our experience in invasive Spartina control at the two important bird habitats in China. So Spartina alterniflora, I will just call it Spartina hereafter. It's a native shortmouth species in the Antarctic coast of America. And now is spread to the west coast of North America, Europe, and New Zealand. I heard maybe some in Africa as well, Africa here, and as well as the East Asia. Spartina invasion has caused serious ecological effects on the native wildlife in the invaded regions, and not spreadly including birds. Because these temporal intertidal zones where the Spartina are occupied also provide important stopover sites for the migratory birds along the flyways. And as early as 1990s, researchers in the Pacific coast of North America have found that the loss of suitable habitats caused by Spartina invasion may potentially cause a decline in the numbers of shorebirds. 10 years ago, my doctorate research in the Yangtze River Extra also confirmed that the conversion of the native short marsh and the mudflies to the tall and dense Spartina meadows had significant impact on the water birds. And this is not only happened in the Yangtze River Extra in China. According to a recent paper published in the Journal of Environmental Management and shown in the left-hand figure, in 2015, Spartina occurred at 53% of important shorebird sites in the China coast. And the right-hand figure shows that there were an additional 12 important shorebird sites that did not have Spartina present at that time, I mean 2015, but there was Spartina located less than 50 kilometers away. This result shows that the Spartina is widespread threat to the shorebird habitat in the China coast. Another recent papers also indicated that almost 30 years after being introduced to China, Spartina has spread to all China coast area from Liaoning to Hainan province. And in 2020, it covers an area of more than 703 kilometers. And on the other hand, considering the global importance of the intertidal zone of the Yellow Sea, especially for the migratory birds, the Chinese government nominated 14 migratory bird habitats along the coast of the Yellow Sea for inscription as the UNESCO World Heritage Site. And Yancheng has been inscribed in 2 years ago, as we know. But unfortunately, more than half of these important habitats are still suffering Spartina invasion. Because of this, the Chinese central government have become concerned about the continued spread of Spartina. And in 2003, Spartina was included in the national first list exotic invasive plants. And last year, two important national conservation plans, the action plan for the mangrove conservation and the restoration, and the master plan for conservation and the restoration of important ecosystem, both emphasized the needs to control the Spartina. In 2014, the Policy Institute began working with the relevant Chinese government agency and the organizations to investigate a suitable method to control Spartina in China, which is a part of a national effort to protect and restore the coastal wetland. And we learned that a herbicide called imazapyr has very low toxicities to human and other animals, and has been used successfully in Washington, D.C. and California in US for a large-scale control of the invasive Spartina for more than a decade. And in California, imazapyr is one of only two herbicides approved by the US Environmental Protection Agency as safe enough for use in the extremely sensitive extra environment. So therefore, based on the well-established methodologies on the Spartina control, we conducted two pilot experiments in two of the most important migratory bird habitats along the coast of China. The first trial is in Luannan. We all know Luannan wetland is located at the north part of the Bohai Bay. Sorry, I lost my mouse. Bohai Bay. And it's one of the most important stopover sites for the migratory water birds. I'm not going to describe the experimental method in details because it has some pseudo replication issues. But I want to mention about that is we use the pump-powered house sprayers in Luannan, and a lot of the herbicide solution run off on the ground during the spraying. We did two spraying in 2018 and 2019 separately. And from the map, you can see this white area is the Spartina habitat. And we sprayed the herbicide in this small corner, which is about 7 hectares. Here shown the effectiveness of the treatments. And 1 year after the first treatment, 70% Spartina has been eliminated. And after 2 treatments, 90% Spartina has disappeared when we do the research, when we do the surveys last year in 2020. The imazapyr is highly soluble in water and degrades readily in the tidal conditions. So as shown in the figure that the content of the imazapyr in soil samples on the day of the treatment was as high as 45 milligrams per kilogram, but it's still very safe towards the most aquatic wildlife. For example, the chronic toxicity value to the ducks is around 600, and then the 50% Q concentration to the fish is around 100 milligram per liter. So, and as less than 1 week, the imazapyr concentration dropped by 100 times, and then 1 month later, no imazapyr residues could be detected within the most soil samples. This photo from one place in 2019 and 2020 shows as soon as the Spartina disappeared in this area, the little birds come is here, the shorebirds are there. They are coming back to this wetland for foraging or even stay at the time during the high tide time. In order to further verify the safety and the effectiveness of this herbicide in different areas in China, and to explore the method for the large-scale treatment by the drones, we conduct a more systematic experiment in Yancheng. We have 9 plots here and 3 for high concentration treatment, 3 for long low concentration treatment and 3 for controls. We also conduct some monitoring after the treatment. Now, vegetation samples was conducted to monitoring the effectiveness of the treatment, and the treated spartina start to turn yellow 1 month after the treatment, and it did not develop the waterhead, not like the untreated, not like what happened in the control area. And this shows how the spartina plant changed after the treatment. It was not very obviously in the first 3 weeks, but it started to turn yellow when the surrounding untreated spartina is still growing. And in this year, in the summer, we did some surveys. The new plants are coming up in the control area, but only standing letters left in the treated plots. Monitoring data also shows the number of the spartina spots was increasing at the control area from August to October, but after treatment, the number of the spots was declined with the time at both high and low concentration plots, and eventually disappeared after 1 month. And then the density and the height of the spartina was increasing at the control area, but declined with the time at both high and low concentration plots. And then no new plants were found in the treated samples until this June. After treatment, no spike was recorded at both high and low concentration plots, but the number of the spike was increasing at the control area from August to October. We also monitored the macrobenthal communities in the study area. And then the results show that the macrobenthal community structures didn't have significant variations among the control and the treatment plots. And interestingly, the treatment plots has much higher abundance of macrobenthals compared to the control plots this year. We also test the persistence of the atmosphere in the sediment and the macrobenthals in Yancheng. And then atmosphere residues in the sediment dropped to 0 after 2 weeks. And no atmosphere residues were detected in the macrobenthal samples in Yancheng. I assume that it's because the application spray volume was ultra low in Yancheng, because when we use in the zone and not much in the herbicide liquid dropped onto the ground. In conclusion, the atmosphere herbicide was effective in eliminating the spartina, and then the application of atmosphere can significantly inhibit the growth of spartina. There were no significant difference in the community structures of the macrobenthals among the treatment and the control area in Yancheng. And then the persistence of atmosphere in the sediment samples and the macrobenthal samples are quite low. And the water birds could come back to forage in the mud flight after the treatment, we guess. Although atmosphere is shown to be effective and low risk in our pilot areas, but further larger piloting may be needed. And even no significant levels of toxicity and persistence were detected in our study, atmosphere maybe have some adverse impacts we don't know yet. So next step, together with China Wetland Conservation Association and another partners, we are conducting more pilot experiments in another 6 sites, and we applied for a new herbicide registrations under the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs. Atmosphere is a non-selective herbicide. So in the air where the native short marsh plants and the mangroves present, the use of atmosphere should be more cautious. In the end, I would like to thank all our partners for their support to this study. And thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xiaojing. Thanks for bringing us a big hope to tackle this alien species, spartina. I think this is has been a big headache for many wetland managers in East Asia, especially China's. So while we are waiting for the questions, leave in the chat box. So I have one question for you, Xiaojing. So thanks for sharing the examples of testing the herbicide in China. I can see your example is mainly on the northeastern areas in China, like Yellow Sea, Bohai, these areas. How about the southern areas in Hainan or in Guangdong or in Fujian? Is there any potential site to be tested in this area? Because the wetland fauna and flora is quite different in south and the north.
Yes, because there are quite lots of other plants in the south of China, so we need to be more carefully to use the herbicide instead of that. But we are going to have two pilot sites in Fujian province, and I think one is in Zhangjiangkou. Our partner from the Beijing Forestry University and a company called Luguan Company, they are doing some experiment there now, and we will have some pyramid result at the end of this year.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So please feel free to reach out to Xiaojing if your site needs any help from Paulson to tackle this alien species. So I cannot see any further questions in the chat box. So thank you very much, Xiaojing. What a good presentation and amazing stories on tackling a spartaner species. So thank you very much, Xiaojing. A big hand to you.
Bye-bye.
So the next presenter is actually my co-worker in Hong Kong Bird Watching Societies. So Mr. Johnson Chung will share the stories from Hong Kong Bird Watching Society on how to work with the local communities to conserve the fish pond wetland in Mai Po Inner Deep Bay Ramsar site. Actually, this Mai Po Inner Deep Bay Ramsar site is the only Ramsar site in Hong Kong. There is Hong Kong and Hong Kong Bird Watching Society and a lot of other NGOs are doing a lot of things at that regions to conserve the wonderful wetlands. So Bird Watching Society is one of the key NGOs to spend their efforts here to conserve especially the fish pond areas. So I pass the time to Johnson to share his stories on fish pond conservation at Mai Po Inner Deep Bay. The floor is yours, Johnson.
Thank you, Yami. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Johnson. I'm from the Hong Kong Bird Watching Society. Before I start my presentation, I would like to thank a lot the host of the Asian Wetland Symposium for giving an opportunity to me to share my experience in the wetland conservation in Hong Kong. First of all, I would like to give a brief introduction about our society. Our society is a local conservation group. Our mission is to promote appreciation and protection of water birds and all the birds and their habitat through education, research, habitat management, and also the conservation advocacy. Since wetland is a significant habitat for many kinds of birds, so our society do lots of work to conserve the wetland in Hong Kong. The title of my presentation is the Fish Pond Conservation Scheme in Mai Po Inner Deep Bay Ramsar site. Here is the outline. First, I will give some background information, and then the fish pond habitat management will be introduced. The first session will share the experience of cooperation with fish pond operators to save the wetland. Okay. This is the whole area of Hong Kong. As we all know, Hong Kong is an urbanized city. However, there are still some agriculture wetland can be found in the northwest area. The name of this area called Deep Bay, you may find you may find that many small polygons in the deep bay. Most of them are of fish pond. Our project covers two sites. One is the yellow boundary that introduced by Yemi. It is the international important wetland, the Maple Inner Deep Bay Ramsar site. It is the only one Ramsar site in Hong Kong and one of the 64 Ramsar sites in China. Part of the Ramsar site is designated as nature reserve that under the management of WWF. Only the fish pond located outside the nature reserve engaged in our project. Besides the red boundary in is the Deep Bay wetland outside Ramsar site. It includes a commercial fish pond adjacent to the Ramsar site. Okay, like the agriculture practice in other Asian countries, the fish pond in Hong Kong mainly cultivate freshwater fish, such as the gray mullet, glass carp, and etc. Most of the fish pond were created since 1980s. It is the golden age of Hong Kong fishery. However, operation costs and the management costs increased in the past 20 years. Income of fish pond operators dropped continuously. According to our investigation, the average age of the fish pond operators is 63 years old in 2021. Many fish pond operators, including their young generation, have left the industry. As a result, more and more fish ponds abundant in the Bay Area. Meanwhile, like many coastal cities, wetland is considered to be a good land supply for the urban development. To compare the satellite images of 1979 and 2021, you may find that about 50% of the fish pond disappeared in the past 40 years. Here is a table. The fish pond area dropped to about 1,000 hectares. They changed to industrial use or other residential development. Previous speakers have already told us the function of wetland in different aspects. I try to explain the function of wetland in terms of ecological importance. As we know, fish pond is important habitat for birds. Our baseline study found that more than 230 bird species utilize the wetland, utilize the fish pond, such as the white-throated kingfisher, the oriental pentacle, best-feathered spoonbill, and different kinds of egret, such as the great egret. The reason is that Hong Kong is located in a pond of East Asian Australasian flyway. Every winter, the migratory bird visit the Deep Bay wetland. The peak count can reach 50,000 water birds. The wetland provided food and roosting site to the water birds. Okay, besides, we conducted a survey to investigate the number of water birds change before and after drawing down in fish pond. The abundance of water birds has increased by 20-fold on average during the drawing down. 10 globally threatened species and near threatened species are found during the fish pond, such as the black-faced spoonbill and the spoonbill sandpiper, which is a critically endangered species. Moreover, a study about the spatial ecology of little egret conducted in 2019 little egret exhibit seasonal movement and habitat use among the season with largest home range, greatest movement, and most frequent visits to commercial fish pond in winter compared to other seasons. Our result highlight the significant role of commercial fish pond, providing a breeding ground for little egret. Like this picture, we set up the tracking device on the egret, and this graph shows the movement record of one of the egret. Its movement cover almost whole area of the Deep Bay area. And what is the solution to solve the habitat loss problem in Hong Kong? Our society commenced a conservation project since 2012. This graph shows the elements of the project. It includes NGO landowner. Through the financial incentive, NGO invite the landowner to implement the management agreement. The agreement is formulated by both parties. In our case, our society cooperate with more than 160 fish pond operators. The assisting organization is the Hong Kong New Territories Fish Culture Association. The project is funded by a government funding named the Countryside Conservation Funding Scheme. Here is our objective and goals. First, we want to provide feeding ground in fish pond for water birds. The second, to strengthen collaboration with local fishermen and nearby community in Deep Bay. Third, to organize various education activity to promote fish pond conservation and local freshwater fish culture to general public. And the last one is to cover a message, bird and human in harmony. Okay, for the habitat management, we encourage the fish pond operator to drink down in order to provide food sources for water birds. In the agreement, we set requirement of drain down. It should be lower of at least 1 meter of the water depth of the fish ponds, or the water depth of fish pond is maintained below 1 meter during the drain down period, and keep this condition at least 7 days. And after finish the drain down, we will give a management fee to the fish pond operators. The image shows that the egret consume the trash fish and stream left after harvesting by the fishermen. On the other hand, we also provide management fee to the fish pond operator to reprofiling their pond. The reason is that recent year, fish pond operator has a bad practice. They fill the C&D waste on the pond bund to repair the bund. This artificial material may inhibit the growth of the vegetation and reduce the wetland area. So we encourage the fish pond operator to use a traditional practice that is profiling. You can see after maintenance, the bund have a gentle slope. It may serve as a roosting site and also the feeding space for water birds such as the heron and egret. Last but not the least, all engaged fish pond should be free of trapping device. The mislet and the animal trap are not allowed to use. If we find the trap in fish pond or receive any reported case, we may suspend the agreement with the fish pond operator and hold the management fee. For the project achievement, here is some figure of last year. There is 162 fish pond operators engaged in the project. It covers 90% of eligible operators in debate. About 88% engaged the fish pond, which cover over 500 hectares of fish pond drained down from April 2012 to March this year. The left photo so that we signed contract with fish pond operator this year. Because of COVID-19, we arranged the fish pond operators sit in small groups. The photo on the right-hand side taken in 2019 to appreciate the contribution of the fish pond operators. We awarded the certificate to them. Apart from habitat management, we also organize many education activity with fish pond operator. Due to time limitation, I just share several highlights of the activities. For example, we invite a fish pond operator to be the interpreter of eco tour. They demonstrate their traditional fishery practice to the participants. Besides, we also organize a signature event, which is the Fish Pond Festival. More than 400 participants join the festival every year. We also promote the local fishery product. Our staff and volunteers sell the eco-friendly fishery product in supermarket. Furthermore, for the sales, our aim is not to earn money. Actually, we want more public to know the value of fish pond through the product. Furthermore, we would want to let fish pond operators know that green group do not only concern the birds in fish pond, but also we can do something to benefit the fishery industry and also concern their livelihood. After cooperation with the fish pond operators in 10 years, we observed some behavioral change. Some of them is willing to participate in environmental education program and even assist to organize the Fish Pond Festival. Some of them know more about the ecological and cultural value of the wetland. And number of illegal hunting decreased. Mrs. Chen is an iconic partner of our project since 2012. She helped us to organize more than 100 eco tours and many other education programs. She was conferred a Spirit of Hong Kong award in 2019 to appreciate her resilient spirit and her contribution to wetland. To make a conclusion, 4 parties input the project to make it work. It includes landowner, NGO, government, and public. In our case, landowner, who is the fish pond operators, provide fish ponds and their agricultural knowledge. They implement the habitat management. NGO is responsible to do the project planning and management, such as the preparation for proposal to apply the funding. We also conduct scientific research to prove the ecological value of wetland and achievement of the project. NGO also do whole project coordination and related education program. For government, they provide funding and financial incentive and policy support. Public can support local fishery product and to be volunteered to assist education activity. Finally, we hope that through the cooperation among different parties, people and birds can live in harmony like this picture, and more wetland can be conserved. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johnson. What a wonderful sharing about the co-management of our Ramsar site together with the local people, especially the fish pond operators. So, hey guys, please don't be shy. Feel free to share your questions if you have any. This opportunity is really precious to share your thoughts or questions with the speakers. So while we are waiting for questions, Johnson, I have one question for you about this fish pond conservation projects.
Yeah.
So I can see you have been collaborating with a lot of fish pond operators in the Bay. So for those fish pond operators who say no to you at the beginning, so do you know why they were not involved in this scheme? Any reasons to support their decision?
Oh, that is a good question. At the beginning, the relationship between Hong Kong Birdwatching Society and the Hong Kong Agriculture Association and some fishermen, it is not really good, to be honest, because one of the bird in Hong Kong, the great cormorant, eat many big fish. So many fishermen do not like bird. But we try to explain the MA, the management agreement to them. We try to involve them in some education program. We hope that to know our society do not only concern the bird, and we also want to promote the fishery product and their culture and also the beautiful fish pond to the general public, to make the fishermen know that we also appreciate their work, and also more and more public to know their contribution, and then the fishermen start to know our work and start to cooperate with us. Yeah.
Okay. So, which means throughout your efforts and in the past few years, more and more fish pond operators are willing to be involved in these projects. So, for those who are involved in these projects, have you received any advice or feedback from them in terms of the long-term sustainability of this project? Any advice from them or comments?
Actually, I heard many comments from the fishermen. They really concerned the government, the fishery policy. Yeah, they want more subsidy or some support from government on the fishery, such as to subsidy, they buy some equipment, or to promote the local fish product.
Yeah, so I can see the long-term commitment from the government is quite essential to ensure this practice can be sustained for long term. So because we understand short-term money is good to initiate new ideas or new mechanism, but in order to make it a long-term sustainable practices, I think more efforts, especially the government, has to be considered so that the fishermen know the value of these projects in long term. All right, any other questions in chat box? Is still silent. Okay, no problem. Maybe people are still thinking about your presentation, which is very fruitful.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Johnson, give him a big hand, please.
Okay, thank you.
Time flies. Right now we comes to the last presentation of these sections. Let's have a virtual flight from Hong Kong to Lepo. The next speakers is Cameron Tupper, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So he will be sharing good stories with us with titles of governance and management of Jika the Per reservoir Ramsar site. It's very hard to pronounce this
Yeah.
Ramsar site.
Yeah,
Jakarta, right?
Ninth Wetland Symposium. I am Mr. Kamal Thapa, currently a PhD candidate at the James Cook University, Australia, and right now I am based in Townsville, Australia. And actually, I do come from Nepal. Yeah, my today's talk or presentation is about the governance and management of Jagdishpur Reservoir Ramsar site in Nepal. So my outline of my presentation is background, introduction, problem statement and justification, research objectives and questions, methodology, result and discussion, and finally conclusion and recommendation for the site management. So introduction, what is Ramsar site? I think as we are all the advocate of wetland conservation and management, I think I don't need to elaborate what is Ramsar site, although just to start the background, Ramsar sites are those wetlands of international importance based on social, ecological, cultural values. And so the Ramsar site could be a freshwater, it could be river, it could be the lake, it will be part of the marine and so on. And this is the international category of protected areas. So globally, Ramsar site, there are 2,422 as per today, and it covers 2.5 million square kilometers. So what about Nepal? In Nepal, we have 10 Ramsar sites. That means 4 Ramsar sites lies out of the legally established protected area system, and 6 lies within the legally established protected area system. And all these 10 Ramsar sites cover 605 square kilometers. So this figure on the right side shows the global distribution of Ramsar sites. So again, just to clarify, Ramsar site is one of the international category of protected areas, and we have at least 6 different types of international and regional categories of protected areas, which are Biosphere Reserve, UNESCO Geoparks, UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, World Heritage Site, Ramsar sites, Natura 2000, which is the European-wide or EU-wide category of protected areas, and Asian Heritage Parks. So Ramsar sites cover like second largest, falls on the second largest category of protected areas based on the numbers. So what about protected areas in Nepal? In total, we have 20 protected areas, which are 12 national park, 1 wildlife reserve, 6 conservation area, and 1 hunting reserve. And we have 10 Ramsar sites, as I mentioned before, which cover more than 605 square kilometers, and 4 lies outside of the legally established protected area system. So Jagdishpur Reservoir is one of those 4 Ramsar sites that lies out of the protected area system, which cover 225 hectares. And this was listed as wetlands of international importance back in 2003. And it is also one of the 27 important bird areas in Nepal. And this is the human-made reservoir that is purposely built for irrigation. That's why it has particular different scenario regarding management and use of this Ramsar site in compared to other 9 Ramsar sites. This figure on the right side shows the distribution of protected areas in Nepal. Unfortunately, in this map, 4 Ramsar sites that lies out of the protected area system are missing. So since my topic is related to governance and management, I like to elaborate what is protected area governance. So Graham et al. Defines protected area governance as the interactions among structures, processes, and traditions that determine how power and responsibilities are exercised, how decisions are taken, and how citizens or other stakeholders have their say. So what about protected area management? So protected area management is actually the course of action that is done in pursuit of given objectives, the means and actions to achieve such objectives. So while the management aims to achieve the objectives, governance is about the power sharing and having responsibilities and the decision-making process. So again, what about protected area management effectiveness? Protected area management effectiveness evaluation is the assessment to which extent the protected areas have achieved its management objectives. Problem or statement and justification. Because as I mentioned before, the site is a human-made, purposely built irrigation reservoir, and the irrigation management office is the sole owner. On the other side, Ramsar focal point in Nepal is Department of National Parks and Wildlife Management, which is also entrusted for the management of all the protected areas in Nepal. And this Ramsar site lies out of the protected area. That's why the field management responsibility lies within the Division Forest Office. And the local people have economic interest in the site and the property ownership. For example, this property belongs to the Ganga Irrigation Management Office, and the Ramsar site management, the field management activity responsibility lies with the Division Forest Office and the local government. For example, the municipality and the local people have economic interest on it. Similarly, the property ownership. So when it comes to the benefit all the peoples want, all the different government authority wants, it belongs to them. But when it comes about the sharing or responsibility of taking for the management cost, then nobody wants to take. So this is how the problem comes, and no clear policy on governance regime of the Ramsar sites. And this figure shows the global this figure shows the Ramsar site distribution in Nepal, and this is where the Jagdishpur Reservoir Ramsar site lies. And all the landscape that surround the Jagdishpur Reservoir Ramsar site are either the built-up areas like local villages or the agricultural field. So the stakeholders in Jagdishpur Reservoir Ramsar site. So whose power and whose responsibility? So the key stakeholders in the Ramsar site are Division Forest Office, Ganga Irrigation Office, Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation, Jagdishpur Reservoir Management Multi-Stakeholder Forum, Water Users Association, Wetland Users, Local Government, Water and Energy Commission Secretariat, Nepal Lake Conservation Development Committee, conservation NGOs and ministries, and any other. And this is the problem, I think, because everybody wants some share, some stake on the management, but nobody wants to take the responsibility of management. Yeah. So this information I took from the letter that was addressed by the Nepal's Department of National Parks and Wildlife Management, which is also the administrative authority of the Ramsar site management. So once I used to work as a field project officer in the site, and I facilitated for the local stakeholder groups to ask for the management, recommendation and for technical support. And this is how we normally get the answer from the Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation, which is also the Ramsar administrative authority. The jurisdiction of the Jagdishpur Reservoir Ramsar site do not relate to this Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation. Therefore, the original letter is attached herewith for your reference and necessary action. Actually, this was the letter dated 29 March 2016 that was sent by the Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation to the Division of Forest Office. So regarding the responsibility, Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation do not take, but passed its responsibility to the Department of Forest, as mentioning the site do not belong to them. The research objective and questions: to identify the current governance regime and management structure system, to identify the status of participatory management, and to assess the management effectiveness evaluation. To achieve these objectives, my research was guided by 3 different research questions. My research methodology is mostly based on literature review, followed by the management effectiveness evaluation workshop, which I applied RMET tool, Ramsar Site Management Effectiveness Tracking tool, and followed by questionnaire survey, although the respondent was quite a small number, and the participant observation as well. I used the management effectiveness tracking tool because it was cost effective, because it is cost effective among different tools available, and against the depth of analysis and information that it provides. And this is how the data was analyzed. Just a moment, I have some problem with this slide. Yeah. Yeah. So result and discussion. These are the major threats that is happening in the Jagdishpur Reservoir Ramsar site, mostly dredging and dams constructed within and upstream of the site, altering hydrological regime is two of the most important factor that is threatening at the moment. However, there are other threats as well, such as housing and settlement. There have been growth of a newly constructed house in the immediate vicinity of the site. There has also the problem of erosion and siltation, invasive and other problematic species, water extraction and diversion, hydrological modification, and water management, and so on. So as I mentioned before, I applied the Ramsar site management effectiveness tracking tool, and this is the overall management effectiveness score of the site. Since the site was declared in the purposely built irrigation reservoir, and it do not have any legal background, it do not have any legal status within the Nepal's protected area system. So the value of the context, for example, the status of gazette of the site is 0. And the score of planning is about 21%, which was followed by input. The management effectiveness score for the input is 29.16%, whereas the score for process is 38.46%. And the outputs has 33.33%, whereas surprisingly, the outcomes has the highest score of 44.44%. Although the context and the planning effectiveness is poor within the site, the outcomes seems to be quite interesting because the local community people themselves are well aware to conserve the site, and they are vigilant against any kind of illegal activities. So what is the status of Jagdishpur Reservoir Ramsar site in terms of management effectiveness in compared to other protected areas of Nepal? So this figure shows the status of Ramsar site with the protected areas of Eastern Himalayas, including some protected areas in Nepal, some protected areas of Bhutan and India too. So the management effectiveness score is very poor in the Jagdishpur Ramsar site in compared to, for example, Chitwan National Park, which is also an old heritage site, in compared to other national parks. So this figure shows that when the protected area is gazetted, or when it has international status, or when the protected areas receive higher funding, then the management effectiveness could be heavily improved. And I also measured the success score of success factors of Ramsar site. Since Stoll, Kiliman, and Welp has listed 15 different success factors for the biosphere reserve, and I applied this list of success factors to evaluate its status in Jagdishpur, and I arrived with the following score. The collaboration with local authorities and the community participation is not that much to the excitement level, because the score is just 5.7 and 6.22 respectively, which is about the median score. And we have with the median score, and then we have the score as low as 3.3, which is 3.11, which is the lack of long-term funding in the site. I think this lack of long-term funding and the lack of well-trained staff and lack of staff in sufficient number is the core problem for the less effectiveness of management of the site. Just a moment. Yeah, and also among these 15 list of success factors, I asked the respondent which 5 top factors are important for the successful management of the Jagdishpur Ramsar site, and the respondent replied that community participation, followed by collaboration with local authorities, and clearly defined responsibilities among different government bodies, which helps to improve or which will help to achieve the successful management of the site. And these factors were followed by environmental education, long-term research activities, and supportive national conservation policies. If we focus on these three different issues, then we can move to the successful management of the site. And I also tried to map the current management style of the site, as Stoll Kleeman and Welf has provided 4 different management categories of protected areas, and I plot the score of this management style based on Stoll Kleeman and Welf category. What I got the result is that the status of management style of Jagdishpur Reservoir Ramsar site is sector-based participatory management, since they propose the more desirable management style is management as a mutual learning, which has more participation approach and more integrated approach. But unfortunately, we have median approach of integration and medium approach of participation. That's why our management style lies in the category of sector-based participatory management. So what about good governance? I used the principles of good governance principle as proposed by Graham et al. And UNDP principle of good governance. And I developed 9 different questions that addressed the UNDP principles of good governance. And this is the score that I got from the respondent. The lowest score on the good governance is responsiveness to stakeholders. That means the management, for example, Division Forest Office or the Jagdishpur Reservoir Management Multi-Stakeholder Forum are very less responsive to stakeholders, whereas the highest score is consensus and participation. This means that when it comes about the consensus and participation of the local people, they come together, but still there is no room to be happy because the score is less than 2. So what does it all mean for the sustainable management of the Ramsar site? The main challenges that we found from this workshop and from the survey was the cattle grazing and the construction of upper stream dam, and problem of siltation is the major challenges for the long-term survival of this site. Since the Ramsar site is not gazetted, it has no legal status. This poses a problem for implementation of the protected area law. Similarly, there is the absence of management plan. So the Ramsar site has been driven without any plan, and there is no communication among stakeholders. Similarly, the participatory approach is not integrated, and the management effectiveness is very poor at the moment. So what could be recommended for the long-term survival of the Ramsar site? First, it has to be accepted and prioritized for conservation and management of the site from the central level. It should be developed. There should be development of mechanism for collaboration and interaction at the line ministry and or departmental level and district and site level. Establishment of fully authorized management board, guarantee of financial resources and sustainable financing, and development and implementation action plan and management plan, as well as catchment level protection to ensure water availability and to reduce sedimentation problem in the reservoir. So this is the end of my presentation, and I'd like to acknowledge Federal Ministry of Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, Germany, as well as Technical University of Dresden, Germany, KNC of Japan, who is supported for the implementation of small site level project. Similarly, Banganga Irrigation Management Office, the sole organization for the management of irrigation reservoir, as well as workshop participants and survey participants from Nepal. So I'd like to have your suggestions and comments.
Thank you, Kamal. So have you communicated the results of this research to any government agency in Nepal? Because I think the outcomes of this research is so comprehensive and so useful. It would be very useful for government authorities to do something, at least for that reservoir.
Yeah.
It is your next step.
Yeah, actually, I haven't shared this result to the central level government, but I have shared the result with the Division Forest Office in the district, which is also the body that is responsible for the conservation of management of the site. I mean, not for the irrigation reservoir, but for the conservation of for the Ramsar category. And the main challenges for this is that it is very difficult to bring the irrigation management office and to bring division forest office together and to find the common point to fix the problem, because irrigation management office wants to use the water because it has the interest to provide as much water as it can to the rice farmers, wheat farmers, and so on. Whereas the interest of the division forest office has the relies on the conservation, lies for the conservation and management. So that's the problem. But I have shared with them, and then this management effectiveness workshop was carried out in participation of these two agencies as well, including local people themselves.
I can see the difficulties in communications, especially during in this study, as you mentioned, the authorities are so complicated. A lot of government bodies from different aspects are involved in different areas. So, but I believe the study at least can serve as a good starting point for you to advance your conservation efforts in that areas. Well done, very good.
I think
so.
Thank you, Liam.
Any questions from the floor?
I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah.
To my best.
I guess the participants are still very concentrated to digest, the content shared by different speakers in this afternoon. So please don't be shy to share your questions with us, with the presenters, or even after the session this afternoon. So the presenters are welcome to receive questions anytime after the section this afternoon. So what a wonderful afternoon. Okay, in the second day of AWS. So if I were allowed to use just one sentence to conclude this afternoon, I would say all six speakers, what they have shared are actually 100% perfectly echoed the theme of this year AWS, which is Voice of Asia, changes, challenges, and successful practices, right? So this is the main theme of this year AWS. Actually, I've got ground to say that. Let's start with the challenge. The perfect voice of Asia, as shared by Mr. So, perfect voice of Asia. I agree with that. Let's start with challenges. Okay. If you remember correctly, indeed all the presenters, they start with challenges, including pollution, urbanizations, solid and waste problems, degradation of wetland, complication of site ownership and authorities. They all start with different challenges, but the beauty is they didn't stop there. In their presentation, they share a lot of innovative and new solutions to tackle different kind of problems and challenges. Some examples, the application of coil fiber for canal bank management in Sri Lanka, the use of innovative community engagement approach in Hong Kong, in Philippines, to support the co-management of a particular Ramsar site or wetlands, the application of new herbicides in China to control the spread of spatana, the application of circular economy model for wetland conservation in Philippines. Last but not least is the PA governance and management system, which encourage high level of community participations and education to ensure effective management system in LAPO. So all these are good case studies and successful practices to open the eyes of our participants to know, even though right now we are experiencing a lot of challenges, okay? Climate change, COVID-19, and all those I mentioned before, but we still have hope because when we get together, we share the knowledge, we share our experience, our innovations. And I believe these innovation and ideas are not just applicable to a single particular Ramsar site, but actually across the region at any wetland who share the similar challenges and difficulties. I do really hope this afternoon section will be useful and meaningful to all of us, because we have already learned something from different colleagues across the regions. So hope you all enjoy the session this afternoon. Enjoy your great evening and see you tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. We still have 2 days of amazing programs. So we will learn about the wide use of land, education, citizen science, so everything in the coming 2 days. Hopefully you all enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you very much. Enjoy a great evening. Goodbye. Many thanks.